Ever feel like you're stuck in a rut? Like you're just hit with the same problems over and over again? Or maybe you've got this unexplained fear you just can't shake.
Oh, tell me about it.
Well, today's deep dive might give you a new way to think about those experiences. We're opening up A Healer's Guide for Soul Cleansing by Eva Marquez.
Okay.
I know energy work can sound a little out there, right?
Yeah.
But Marquez has worked with people for years who just haven't found answers the conventional way. And her take is that negative energy could be behind a lot of these things, these recurring issues.
It's interesting, you say out there because even though the book uses words like energy fields and soul cleansing, these ideas have been around for centuries, right?
Right.
They come from ancient healing traditions all over the world.
Yeah.
Like cultures have been saying forever that there's more to well-being than just like the physical stuff.
Makes sense.
So Marquez's book is kind of like a bridge, It takes these really old ideas and shows how they apply to the problems we face today.
So Marquez says there are two main types of negative energy: low vibration energy, and then there's intelligent negative energy.
Right.
I'm almost afraid to ask, but what's the difference?
Okay, so imagine low vibration energy is like this dense fog all around you.
Okay.
This fog, it's like it messes with your judgment, drains your energy.
Yeah.
It can even show up as physical problems. Like Marquez talks about how chronic digestive issues, for example, can be linked to past life trauma.
Past lives.
Yeah, like someone who was poisoned in a past life could still be feeling the effects in their current body.
Wow.
Wild, right? So that's low vibration energy. Now, this intelligent kind, that's a whole other story. It's way more direct.
Okay.
Think of it more like a parasite, something that's latched onto your system, feeding off your energy.
Oh, no.
These could be entities, implants, even, and this is where it gets interesting, attachments to earthbound spirits.
Earthbound spirits, like ghosts.
Exactly. And get this, Marquez says they can influence your thoughts. They can mess with your feelings. They can even influence the choices you make in your life.
So how do these things even get attached to us? It's not like we're out there inviting this stuff in.
Right. Well, Marquez thinks some of these attachments come from past life trauma. Like maybe in another life, we were in a desperate situation, and we made this deal, any deal, to save ourselves or someone we love, even if it meant taking on this foreign energy.
It's like making a deal with the devil, kinda.
It's kind of like that. And think about it. We all make choices in this life, sometimes out of fear or desperation that we end up regretting.
Yeah.
We carry those choices. Some of them we carry for a long, long time.
It's true. So if we're surrounded by all this negative energy, what can we even do to protect ourselves? That's got to be step one, right?
Absolutely. Marquez is really big on energy protection. It's essential, especially for people who are sensitive to energy, like empaths. It's all about setting strong boundaries.
Oh.
And a helpful way to think about it is that your energy field is like the door to your house.
Okay.
And if you leave that door open all the time, you're letting in whatever's out there, good or bad.
Makes sense.
You're basically an open house for stray energies.
So we've got to be more mindful of who we're letting in.
Exactly. Now, Marquez, she gives all sorts of tips for opening and closing your energy field, but she says that you might not need these rituals forever. It's like as you practice, you build up a kind of immunity.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, like your personal energy gets stronger.
So what? We can just will it away.
It's not quite that easy, but you're on the right track. That's where this whole idea of raising your vibration comes in. Imagine building a protective force field around yourself.
I like the way that sounds.
Me too. The more you focus on your inner light, your soul light, the less those bad vibes, those lower vibrations can get to you. It's like they just bounce right off.
That's amazing.
Right. And it's something we all have the power to do.
So we're guarding our energy, right? We're raising our vibration, but then Marquez drops this whole mechanical implants concept on us, and that's where it really got me.
Yeah, that's a pretty wild part of the book.
She's talking about these non-human parasites, these implants that can actually control people. And the really unsettling thing is that she says, according to Marquez, people agreed to this at some point.
It's hard to wrap your head around.
It really is.
To explain it, Marquez, she goes back to this idea of past life trauma. Imagine you're in this totally desperate situation.
Mm-hmm.
You'd make any deal to save yourself or someone you love.
Right. You do whatever it takes.
Exactly. Even if
Yeah.
it means taking in this foreign energy, this thing that you don't really understand.
Wow.
Yeah,
So then how do we get rid of them?
that's the question, right? Well, she describes this process of raising your vibration. You tap into a loving frequency, even asking, like your spirit guides for help. And she's got some intense imagery in there, too. I think she said something about burning the energy out like a nuclear blast.
Woo,
Wow.
intense. Right.
Definitely. But I think the big takeaway there is that we have the strength inside of us. We have the power to break free from these negative influences. It's all about claiming your free will, taking back your personal power.
It's about taking back control. I love that.
Absolutely.
Okay, so Marquez also talks about these alien abductions.
Right.
She suggests that some of these implants are actually a more recent thing. I know we're already pretty far down the rabbit hole here, but is there any connection, you think, between these implants she's talking about and these abduction experiences?
Well, what I find interesting is that Marquez says most of the people who have these implants from abductions, they're dealing with trauma from this lifetime, unlike people who might be carrying them from a past life.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
So that trauma it's fresher, it's more raw.
Yeah, it hasn't had as much time to, I don't know, settle or anything.
Exactly. That makes it more difficult to deal with.
And this is where it gets really interesting. I mean, maybe even hard to believe for some people, but Marquez says that those gray aliens, the ones you always hear about with abductions, they're actually looking for redemption now.
It's a pretty unexpected twist.
They're trying to make amends for what they've done. At least that's what she's suggesting.
Right. It's like they're trying to balance the scales, make up for their past actions. And she talks about them guiding healers and sharing information telepathically. It's really pretty wild.
That is wild.
Yeah.
But even with these gray aliens, even with all this, Marquez still says it always comes down to free will. A person always has the choice to accept their help or not.
Always. It's about personal power, even in those situations.
So we've talked about these implants from past life trauma, but what about other issues that we deal with in this life? I mean, does Marquez have anything to say about that?
She does.
Okay, good.
Yeah, she talks about this idea of past life healing. It's a way to get rid of the hold that past experiences can have on us in the present.
Mm-hmm.
And she makes it clear, it's not about changing the past.
Right.
It's about understanding how it might be affecting us now.
I see.
And she uses this analogy of a balancing beam to explain it.
A balancing beam. Okay.
Yeah, like imagine you're walking on this beam. Each point on the beam is a different point in your life, but across all of your lifetimes.
Okay.
And at certain points, you might feel stuck, like there's a blockage there, and those are the areas that need healing.
Oh, I guess.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, totally.
Yep.
Because it's like those points where we're off balance in this life, they might be connected to something that happened in a past life.
Exactly. Like, let's say you're terrified of water in this life.
Okay.
Marquez would say that maybe you drowned in a past life. Or let's say you keep having the same problems in relationships. She might suggest that there's a pattern there connected to a past life.
Yeah.
So it's all about identifying those patterns and then working to clear the energy.
It's like we're trying to create a smoother path for ourselves across all those lifetimes.
That's a great way to put it. And it's something we can all do with a little effort and the right guidance.
I like it. So how do we even start to figure out what's from this life and what might be from a past life? I mean, is there a test you can take or something?
Well, there's not a test exactly, but Marquez, she talks about this one client who had all this chronic pain. And during like a regression session, they uncovered a connection to the Black Plague. Can you believe that?
The Black Plague.
Yeah. Imagine carrying that kind of trauma with you.
Oh my gosh, that's intense.
Right. But what's interesting is that the healer, she actually felt her client's pain. Like she was right there with them, feeling what they were feeling.
Whoa.
And I think that really shows you how powerful this connection between our past and present lives can be.
Yeah.
It's real, and it can manifest in very physical ways.
It makes you realize that we're carrying around a lot more than we realize.
We definitely are. And understanding those hidden influences can be the key to unlocking a whole new level of healing and well-being.
Yeah.
It really is amazing when you think about it, We're carrying around the energy of not just this life, but maybe like lifetimes. And all those experiences, they can really affect us, how we feel, how we live our lives.
It's almost too much to think about sometimes. So we've gone through negative energy, implants, past lives, all this intense stuff. It's fascinating, but what are people supposed to do with this information? What's the takeaway for our listeners?
Well, if there's one thing Marquez repeats over and over in the book, it's the power of free will. She's convinced that even accepting this negative energy, whether it's that fog we talked about or a full-on entity, it's a choice.
We choose that.
Well, we may not be conscious of it, but yeah, she says it's a choice.
So if we're making these choices, even unconsciously, how do we become more aware of them?
It's about paying attention. Start noticing those repeating patterns in your life, those fears that pop up out of nowhere, those things that keep blocking you. Once you see the pattern, you can start to break free from it.
And once you see it, You can use the techniques Marquez talks about, like raising your vibration, cleansing your energy, to actually change things.
Exactly. It's like she's giving us a map, a way out. You see the negative influences, you build up your defenses, and then you get to work clearing out everything that's holding you back.
I like that. You used the term raising your vibration earlier about building this force field against negative energy. Can you talk a little more about that? What does it even mean to raise your vibration? And what can people actually do to make that happen?
Sure. Raising your vibration, the way Marquez describes it, is all about growing your inner light. She calls it soul light.
Soul light. Okay.
Yeah, and it's about moving from a place of like fear, negativity, low energy to a state of love, compassion, high frequency.
So, how do you do that?
Well, there are all sorts of practices.
Mhm.
Meditation, spending time in nature, focusing on gratitude, anything that brings you joy, really.
So, it's not just about avoiding the negative, but actively cultivating the
That's
positive.
exactly. And the more you build up that inner light, the stronger your energy gets, and those lower vibrations, they just can't get through. It's like this shield you're building around yourself.
That's a cool way to think about it.
Right. And the more you work on it, the stronger you get, like a muscle.
Exactly. Marquez also talks about rehabilitation, which I thought was interesting. It's like, even after you get rid of all this negative stuff, there's still work to do. It's not enough to just remove what's blocking you. You have to figure out what you're going to do with the space that's left.
It's like imagine carrying something heavy for a really long time and then suddenly it's gone. Yeah, you're lighter, but you also might feel a little lost. Like, how do you even move without it?
So, how do you deal with that? What does Marquez say we should do after we clear this negativity?
She's big on inner work. It's about making a conscious choice to fill that space with positive energy, good habits, a real sense of purpose, things like setting healthy boundaries, going after your passions, really connecting with who you are.
I like that. It's about rebuilding from the inside out.
Exactly.
And one thing she points out, which I thought was kind of mind-blowing, is that we're not just victims of this external negative energy. We can actually create it ourselves.
That's a tough one to swallow.
It is.
But it's true. Marquez, she talks about these PAFD monsters.
PAFD monsters. What is that? Like a Halloween thing?
It sounds like it, right? But it stands for problems appearing as fear and desire. Basically, she's saying we create our own suffering.
How so?
Well, our negative thoughts, anxieties, all those times we sabotage ourselves, we get so stuck in those thought patterns, those limiting beliefs, that we end up manifesting the very problems we're trying to avoid.
Wow, we're basically building cages for ourselves out of our own fear.
That's a great way to put it. And Marquez, she's got all these tools and techniques for breaking out of those cages and shifting those fear-based patterns into something way more empowering. She's big on challenging negative thoughts, flipping those limiting beliefs, and being kind to yourself.
Being kind to yourself. That's good advice. It's so easy to be hard on ourselves.
It really is. So we need to be extra mindful about the energy we're putting out there, about choosing thoughts and beliefs that lift us up instead of dragging us down.
So we're responsible for clearing out the negative stuff, but also for not creating more of it.
Exactly. But look, we're not in this alone. Marquez also reminds us that there are forces out there, good forces, that can help us, guide us, like our spirit guides, for example.
That's right, spirit guides. We haven't even gotten to those yet.
It's a whole other rabbit hole.
Speaking of rabbit holes, you mentioned gray aliens earlier. Does Marquez talk about them in this helping us out kind of way too? Because that seems like a whole other level of wild.
Oh, she goes there. And she's very specific that it's not just any gray aliens. It's the one who are trying to make things right. Maybe they even feel bad about the implantations and want to balance things out karmically. They could be guiding healers, sharing information telepathically. It's pretty out there.
It really is. But even with these gray aliens, even with everything we've talked about, it always comes back to free will. We get to decide if we want to work with these energies or not. Marquez is very clear about that.
Absolutely. It's your journey, your choice.
So Marquez, she doesn't shy away from the intense stuff. Like, she even talks about nightmares, but not just like, oh, I had a bad dream. She thinks they could be psychic attacks.
Right. Like these dark energies are trying to keep us small by messing with us in our sleep.
That's kind of terrifying. How do you even protect yourself from that?
She's got a few techniques, but the one I found most interesting was cultivating unconditional love, even in your dreams.
Unconditional love for the monster chasing you with a chainsaw. That's a lot to ask.
It does seem a little counterintuitive, right? But she says that meeting those dark energies with love, with light, instead of fear, it takes away their power.
Interesting.
Yeah, it's like you're disarming them with love.
I like it. So what, we make friends with the monster under the bed, offer it tea and a chat.
I don't know about that. But I think the point is that shifting your energy, going from fear to love, that's where the real power lies.
Makes sense. She also talks about lucid dreaming, right? Like you become aware that you're dreaming and you can actually take control.
Exactly. Rewriting the script, she
Mhm.
calls it. Instead of letting the fear take over, you use your willpower, your free will, to change the story.
So you're like the director of your own dream world. I love it. It seems like everything Marquez writes about comes back to this idea of taking back your power, being in control of your own healing, your own transformation.
100%. And it's not
Right.
just about healing ourselves, it's about healing the world around us, too.
That's a great point. And speaking of the world around us, Marquez also talks about our galactic team. I mean, we're going full cosmic here. Who's on this team and what are they doing?
Okay, this is where she brings in the starseed stuff.
Hmm.
The idea that we're not just human, but souls that have come to Earth from other planets.
Wait, are you saying we're aliens? Because if so, I told you this was going to get wild.
Well, the idea is that we chose to come here, to Earth, on a mission. Like, we're here to help humanity evolve.
That's a pretty big job.
It is. And she even talks about this meeting on the Pleiades, where all these souls volunteered to come to Earth, knowing it would be hard, knowing we'd forget who we really are. It's like a cosmic adventure. It really is. Makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Maybe all those sci-fi stories are closer to the truth than we realize.
They're starting to sound a lot less fictional, I'll tell you that. So we're all here on a mission, part of something so much bigger than ourselves. It's kind of awe-inspiring.
It is. So what do you think? Feeling any messages from your galactic team yet?
Maybe. It's a lot to process, I'll say that. But speaking of processing, we've covered so much. What else is in this book?
Well, she also gets into the importance of building what she calls a healthy belief system.
Okay, healthy belief system. What does that even mean?
She's not talking about blindly following someone else's dogma or anything like that. It's about trusting yourself,
Mm.
your own gut, your own ability to heal. It's about thinking critically, questioning everything, and figuring out what resonates with your own truth.
So it's not about accepting anyone's word as gospel, even hers. It's about becoming your own authority.
Exactly. She wants people to own their own spiritual journey, build a belief system that empowers them, not one that limits them.
Which honestly is good advice no matter what you believe. It's about taking responsibility for your own growth, your own well-being. You're not giving your power away to someone or something else.
You got it. It's about stepping into your own power and realizing that you get to create your own reality.
It's easy to do though, isn't it? I mean, to give your power away, whether it's to like a person or an idea or even, like you said, our own fears.
Oh, absolutely. We're always giving our power away, in little ways and big ways.
It's so true. So Marquez, she ends this book with this big, like, epic vision of us as starseeds here on this mission to help humanity evolve. It's a lot to take in. What's the one thing you hope people are thinking about after they finish this deep dive? What should they be pondering?
That's a good question. I think the most important question Marquez asks is, what kind of world do we want to create?
Wow.
Because now we know about these negative energies, these darker forces. We know about our own potential to change them.
Right, to actually do something about them.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, what are we going to do with this information? What choices are we going to make?
It's a big responsibility.
It is. And it can feel overwhelming sometimes.
Yeah.
I mean, when you really think about all this negative energy, these psychic attacks, it's kind of scary.
It really is. It kind of makes you want to stay home and hide under the covers.
I know, right? But the good news is Marquez also offers a lot of hope.
She does.
And I think that's important to remember. This book isn't just about all the bad stuff out there. It's about the light, too. It reminds us that we have the power to heal ourselves, to grow, and to make a positive difference in the world.
Yeah, so it's not about being afraid of these negative energies, but about understanding them. We can learn how they work, and then we can choose to align ourselves with love, with compassion, with our own inner light.
That's it. That's the key. It's about conscious choice.
And remembering that we're not alone in this.
Never forget that. We have our own inner strength. We've got the support of all those good forces out there, and we have each other. We're all in this together.
That's a great place to end it. We're all in this together, learning, growing, trying to create a better future. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive into, well, I'm just going to say it, the wild world of energy healing and soul cleansing.
It's been awesome exploring it with you.
And until next time, everyone, keep asking questions, keep exploring, and keep shining your